Welcome to Comic Books and Chill, the home of the Stash Bros. I'm Mike, chilling with Chris.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to another show. Please sit back, relax, and enjoy more comic book content.
Today, we have a special guest, longtime DC artist, Chuck Patton is with us today.
Ooh, Mike, we always see him at cons. Great guy, excellent artist. I am so hyped for this interview.
But before we talk to Chuck, please like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and please comment.
Let's get started.
Our next guest has been in the game for nearly 40 years. Oh, this man has worked on every popular title in DC, man.
Yes, sir.
Batman, Justice League, Flash, Teen Titans, Action Comics, Green Lantern, Detective Comics. Woo! He is also one of the most successful animation directors out there, baby. Ladies and gentlemen of the Stashland, we bring to you Chuck Patton.
Woo!
Chuck.
Welcome, Chuck.
Thank you for joining us, Chuck.
What a hell of an intro. Damn, I want to hear me now.
Let's do it, baby. Let's dive right on in. So Chuck, since it's your first time joining us, I wanted to talk a little bit about your background as an artist. So when did you start drawing, and what gave you the confidence to become a professional illustrator? Because a lot of brothers draw, a lot of people have artistic talents, but taking that step further and becoming a professional illustrator, that takes a lot of rigor.
It's a lot of you guys don't say bandwidth anymore, do you? You younger brothers, you younger folks. Well, the truth is that, and I'm going to tell you straight. I mean, I started drawing. My memory of drawing started easily around 2, and I'm talking about. And what I mean by drawing was, and I clearly remember it. You see stuff that sparked you. You see stuff that got you excited. I'm 2 years old, so all those words, the best I can tell you is that I wanted to reproduce them. And it was in my imagination. I have had an active imagination since that time, meaning I would see something and like a sponge, soak it up and then regurgitate it. And now the trick was, where do you regurgitate it? I do remember drawing on the wall, which freaked my mom out. And so they kind of progressed in giving them something to do, give them some paper. And we had my first drawing utensils was the brown paper bag. And I remember mom giving me the brown paper bag. I had the pencil. There were always pencils in our house. If I explain why, we'll be here for too long. But those of us from the ghetto will understand why, but I won't say that. Whether it was stories my mom would tell me and I would draw them because when you hear artists saying stuff had to come out, that's true. I believe that. It's honest. It's something you can't hold back. Like writers, taking in words. As artists, we take in visuals. And I was doing that as an early age and never stopped. As I got older and got more complex, not good, but complex, meaning the more stuff I started regurgitating, and more stuff I started, it's like the paper bags weren't important. It blew my mom away. I remember clearly how she saw how prolific I was. That obviously, that was my thing. I had the blocks, I had the books, I had the toys. But I would also, that one step, whatever I would play with, I would go and start drawing.
So what that answered? Answered it beautifully, by the way, beautifully.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Now, what about your entryway into the professional comic books industry? So how did you get there?
Oh no, that's a whole other.
Yeah, we want to get there. So how'd you
yes, exactly.
from this young prodigy that was drawing on paper bags to the accomplished comic book penciler? How did you get your first hit?
Again, this is hard work. It's not just talent. And there are people who tell you different. I've met them, I've worked with them. Some of them I can't stand, some of them I admire. And everybody's got their path. I know for me, this has been hard work. I went from a love to work. And the hardest thing is to keep your love in your work, in your work, in your love. And that balance is, again, where you are in life. That says how much you worked it. So whenever I feel bad, I look at this and go, I've done this for 40 years.
Hell yes. Hell yes.
10 years old, I didn't think I could even get this job. How did I get this job? I'll tell you honestly.
Yes.
Twistedly, There was earning it, and it was a freak moment where an artist died on the job, and it left an opening for me.
Oh, wow.
They died for this job, and it was someone who was known, who was famous. I always get him, it was two guys, Canadians. I think it's Gene Day. Gene Day was a Canadian artist. He was known for drawing Master of Kung Fu after Paul Gulacy.
Okay.
He was working for DC at the time. He was doing A Brave and the Bold, and he died he died in the middle of his assignment. And there was all sorts of legends how he died. I mean, from the most grandiose kind of fairy tale that he died at the drawing table, because he smoked a lot and he ate shit, like all artists do. You never get to leave the drawing table, so you eat whatever's there. Sometimes Twinkie, and if he had a cigarette, I'm sure that's what kept him going. But that wasn't how he died. I heard he had a heart attack on the speedway. But the thing was, he died. And I was in the New Talent program at the time. And I honestly thought I was the worst guy. And because I was getting the most criticism, not realizing you got the most criticism. And this was from my mentor, Dick Giordano, who, if you know DC Comics or
yes, legendary anchor.
Yeah.
That man, I owe my life and career to him. And he had me in the class, and he would just kick my ass. He did something that to this day I use now against my artists. Not against, I use it as a motivation. He used to tell me when I draw something and I work this thing to death, and you'll look at it and go, Pat, you went out of your way to be boring. And to this day, I would tell my artists, what you did, you went out of your way to be boring. And it galvanizes. If you want to make your bones, you're gonna want to stuff that down my throat. That means you're gonna reach deep and find your way, just like I had to. And so I was in a position, and we were like 12 guys in that class. We started with 30. And we're down to 12. That's how many people either got jobs or dropped out. That's how hard this program was. And this was an inaugural program too. It wasn't like, they've done this before. Dick forced, I wouldn't say forced, but he convinced DC Comics that the next group coming up needs to be trained, need to be guided. And the best way to do this is to bring them in. So we would come in once a week and do, not projects, we'd get assignments. Now you gotta realize we weren't getting paid for this.
No, okay.
Find your way there. I had to literally find my way to New York. That's another story in itself.
And you're from Michigan?
I'm from Detroit. Now I'm living in Los Angeles right now, but Detroit. I just got out of college. No idea how to get into comics. Dick didn't know. He didn't tell me he was grooming me. When the time happened, I didn't know Gene Day had died. When the time happened, he pulled me out of the class. That used to be the way, if you weren't really making it, he'd pull you out and you wouldn't see that person again. So there was a door in and there was a door out. And he was inside the DC offices. And I remember him going, Pat, come with me. And I'm like, oh shit, this is it. And I'm going to this one door. Now it didn't dawn on me until after I went through the door. I'm going the opposite of the exit. I'm going into the inner offices. Oh shit, he's gonna chew me out. He told me out the back door. And he doesn't. He takes me deep into editorial, takes me to this office, opens the door. Who's sitting there with Lynn Wein, Marv Wolfman, and George Perez.
Oh
wow.
They were working on Titans at the moment. Lynn was the editor-in-chief. Lynn.
So this is your first entry. You come into the gates of DC Comics, and that's who you see for the first time?
Yeah, never met them before. Heard about them, of course, Because when we came in, we had to wait in the lobby, and then Dick would have us, either his assistant or his secretary, will escort us to this one conference room, and that's where we have our class. So we weren't even allowed to rub shoulders. Even when we went to the bathroom, take that bathroom, don't go to that bathroom. So, again, I was convinced I was going to the back door. So I see these guys, this still didn't dawn on me. I'm like, what did I do? What did I fuck up now? Dick goes, I'm leaving with you. And he just leaves. I'm like, what the fuck? And Lane starts asking me questions like, so you heard of Gene Day? You like Brave and the Bold? And I'm like, yeah, I love, sure, of course. Read all of them. I'm following since fucking, following Brave and the Bold since, I was a DC fan all my life. And then he goes, what do you think of Gene Day's work? And I'm like, well, he's all right. No what you really think. So my fanboy just took off. Well, he's derivative because Gene used to always draw off photographs. I used to be the old school, you draw what you see, you draw it. Didn't realize later, no, you start drawing off photographs because it's a lot easier. But Lynn, I appreciate what you have to say. I admire everything you're absolutely right. Oh, by that time, Marvin and George take my hand and goes, we saw your stuff, looks good. And I'm like, what the fuck? They showed them my work. I'm still not convinced I'm there for a job. I'm there, I think, to be criticized. And then Lynn flips it on me. Well, Gene died. He left the book half drawn. I don't want anybody to pick it up. It's early enough that we want somebody to restart the book.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Dick says you're the fastest guy in the class. That freaked me out because I'm thinking, fastest guy? What the hell? Got to do it good. I'm not good. He's like, can you do this book within 3 weeks? And I'm like, how yeah. And it's Simon home. And the rest would take too long to explain, but yeah, that was
wow.
Yes.
Can we talk about your workflow? So we are fully in the digital age of comic book creation. Have you gone digital?
This is weird. And after all that long story, I'm still old school. In fact, my artists are yelling at me, why am I not going digital? Because when you work in animation, you are working digital. I went from paper to digital. There's a lot of twists and turns I don't do. I'm old school. I like the feel of the freaking paper and the pen. But I also admit that, God, it's easier to go digital. I have not done it yet. I have put it this way, I'm challenged to do something and can't talk about it too much, but where I'm thinking I need to start working that way. Going back to the original question you're saying about confidence. I personally believe, no offense against the guys who are all wonderful working digitally, but I think when you're working pencil, it forces you it builds your confidence in making choices. So if you know you can't just control, delete, and erase something, or do 15 damn files or layers on something and make the right position on the head, drawing on paper forces you to make a decision. Drawing on paper forces you to feel the confidence of something and do it, even if you're wrong. I think having all those choices is great, but it's almost kind of certainly not lazy, but I think it's a handicap. It kind of does not allow you to really build your visual library, your file library, if that makes sense.
No, I think it makes perfect sense. But can you please explain to us how making the comics in the 80s versus making comics today?
Yeah, elaborate a little bit further, because I think you're dancing, you're hitting those notes.
Well, it's funny because I came back last year or 2 years ago to do my first comic in 40 years. And that was the Primal Age book and special. It taught me something. It also made me say something out loud that I wouldn't have probably said 20 years ago, but I can say it now because I walk both worlds. Where I went, you know what? Now I know why a lot of guys don't do comics, or if they don't want to work for the big companies. There is one, as business people, to be paid for the efforts you put in there's a big gap there. Back in the 80s when we were younger and drawing on paper and the cost of living wasn't the way it was okay to make a living in comics. We thought. We were young. You didn't realize you were drawing your ass off too and causing your health, and we're also working without benefits, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And this is the business of comics, which should be hands in hands with the physicality of comics, because back when I did that first book, I did that book in less than 2 weeks.
Oh, wow.
I wouldn't want to do that. And I thought that was, and again, I thought that was normal. Bottom line is, yes. To be at any kind of caliber, and that's for whether you're an athlete or an artist, there is a certain amount of sacrifice, physical effort you have to put in. But somewhere on the line, your brain gets in the way, or your body lets you down. You can only go so far. The first time George showed me his finger in his drawing hand, and there was this permanent digit there, and it was a rite of passage, but I'm going, good God, you grip that pencil. Now I got a slight lean, I can see, but not like his. And other guys had calluses on their hands, and you can't tell me that's not from effort. And that's what we're talking about. There's a certain amount of physical effort to sit in a chair and put in 15, 20 hours of drawing. and postures that are uncomfortable. And even with the drawing, and now we got standing desks in animation, which at the time, if somebody said, God, man, you got to stand up and draw 15 hours to do a comic book by standing up. You know, again, that's a lot of effort. It's not easy. It is not easy. And there is no easy way. I can't tell you which is the best way. The way that works is the best way. So to answer your question, yes, it takes a toll. It takes a mental toll, it takes a physical toll. And you got to be up for it.
Well, I want to continue this discussion about comic book creation during the 70s and 80s. I noticed that there was an influx of black artists popping up around the time of your era, the early 80s. Dennis Cowan, Trevor Von Eaton comes to mind around that era. I've been particularly interested in black pencilers on Batman, just because Batman is the most popular character at DC Comics, and it's such a prestigious gig to have where it creates opportunities for other gigs just by being on Batman. What was it like for you back then, reflecting back then? Was it a big deal for you to be working on Batman? I know it was only one issue, but was it something where you were like, yo, I'm on Batman?
Oh, hell yeah, of course. Well, here's the thing. It was a double pop, because it was not only Batman, but the thing I love about Brave and Bold is that it's Batman with anybody out of the DC universe. Anybody. And since I was a major DC fan and I was a fan again since I was a child, so a lot of the 60s characters were a big deal for me. Here's Brave and the Bold was like, hey, it's Batman and Detective Chimp. I don't think he's done it with Detective Chimp, but you can go that far with it. You know, he had Batman met Commandy, Batman met the Metal Man, Batman met Black Canary, you name it, Wildcat. Brave and the Bold entertained that, and beautifully drawn. And those also, at that time, the person who was the longest associated with it was Jim O'Farrell. And I love the way O'Farrell drew Batman. To answer your question, is weird about Batman is you gotta realize the fame of Batman was known, and yeah, there was the TV series and all that, but he didn't really become this huge company figure until after Miller got his hands on it. And then I take that back. Neil Adams refined it. Everybody keeps forgetting that. Neil and Denny and Dick refined Batman to where people looked at it and went, holy shit, this character is serious. But it wasn't really hit public zeitgeist that this is the DC character until, I believe, and this is my opinion, but I've been there, it's an informed opinion, but until Miller got him and really darkened and edges up. Now, people have done it. Now, again, Denny and Neil have done a lot of that, but it wasn't reflecting in other media. Once Frank got it, all of a sudden, and then, of course, all of a sudden Tim Burton comes out, and he's basically kind of taking a hint from them. They're kind of piggybacking off each other. Then all of a sudden, the phenomenon of Batman became this huge thing. And we have not seen that kind of hugeness since the 60s as a child.
Right.
I tell you, man, growing up on the Batman mania in the 60s, that was on the level of the Beatles. And it was 2 nights, too. So it was like they hyped you up on the Wednesday night, and then Thursday night they'd give you the epilogue, you know. But it was trippy, because no show ever did that. I mean, I'm an ex-broadcast student, so I mean, there's a lot about television I know. And it was like, nobody did a show like that. It was like the serials.
You were just a few years prior to Miller on Dark Knight Returns.
Yeah.
You were just a few years prior. You were saying that was a time where Batman wasn't quite all that.
It was there. It was like steady, but it wasn't like boom. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's like they could throw anybody on it, to be honest with you.
Okay.
That's why it was trippy. It was, Apparel was, I liked Apparel because he was consistent. I mean, I saw him on Brave and the Bold, and it was like, ooh. Now, when they started bringing other people on, it's because Apparel was starting to develop Batman the Outsiders. But, when Gene Day would draw Batman, I wouldn't get excited about it. And I hate to say that, but it was true. In fact, when I did it, I was feeling that kind of like, would anybody care that I'm drawing it? No, I was.
Yeah, that's that's what I want to know about. Yeah, so that Batman 385. So that's your one shot at Batman, the flagship title. Take us through what was going on then in your mind.
If it's 385, that means Rick Holberg was the regular writer or something. When I did that book, Lynn said, because of that, I want to put you on Justice League. Now, to me, as a fanboy and as a young artist, even though Titans quickly became the most important books at DC, Justice League was to me the flagship. Now that I got to draw this guy, I got to draw them all now.
Right.
Unfortunately, by the time I inherited it, I was excited. I really did. I love Justice League. The idea of I can draw Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, you name them, I can draw them all together. Oh shit, this is a fanboy's dream.
And you went on a run.
I was ready, except I got the unfortunate news that, well, we're taking most of those guys out of Justice League.
Oh.
I don't think I had one. No, I did not get one Justice League where Batman was in it. My tryout page, I had Batman. Because I was doing the tryout, I had to do a page to see if I can do the style, because Lynn was convinced I was taking over the book that way. I'm glad he didn't tell me that directly, that he made me test out, but I got a page from the previous issue where Don Heck was finishing up, and they had hosts and everybody in it. So I got to draw Batman in green. I used to have that page. I have no idea. I think it got stolen. But that was where I really was looking forward to the series, and then he told me, yeah, half those guys are gone. Yeah, the only few guys who got to actually draw it, who were brothers, was Dennis and Trevor.
Right.
That's about it. I don't even think and there's other guys who came up with me who were more known. Paris Cullins.
Right.
Paris immediately went to, they had Blue Demon set up for him completely. And with his style, that was perfect. I would thought, if anything, because he and I used to hang out, I thought also that he would be great on something like Legion. I never thought you'd get Batman. And again, Batman was sort of stalled in this. It's popular, but it wasn't huge. And that's why, when Miller touched it, it's like at that moment, Batman became a gold mine. When this case is platinum.
Let's shift to animation real quick, because in the world of animation comics, in our world, especially superhero world, Chris and I, because that's the world we kind of dwell in a lot. It's the superhero world. There's two major American projects, two big ones. You got the Paul Dini, Bruce Timm world, the epic DC animation. And, that's a whole, and that went on for almost 20 years, and they have a whole big family tree of just talent oozing out of there, voice actors out the wazoo and all that. But then for us, also a second place, it might not be as long of a legacy as the Dini-verse, but Todd McFarlane's Spawn still stands the test of time.
Yes.
That's not nostalgic. That's not nostalgia. You can watch that right now, HBO Max, right now, and still feel the quality and just the richness of that project. So we want to ask you, tell us what it was like working on Spawn. You won Emmy working on Spawn, right? And so tell us what it was like working on Spawn and working with Todd McFarlane.
It was, there's you get lucky and you have an experience where it changes your life. And it's corny to hear that, but it did for me. It changed my animation life. I worked on the standard shows, and I never got to work on the Batman show. You saw that it was a certain quality and there was a certain group that you had to join up, and I just didn't feel comfortable. Although the friend who brought me on the Spawn was one of the directors on Batman animated series. The thing that we gelled on, and to this day I owe him, was that we saw in Spawn another way of doing this. It was like Batman set a precedent, but it's now time to step up from that. Not to be better, really expound. It's like, well, we really couldn't go that violent with Batman. Batman still had to stay within that comic book world. With Spawn, here was an opportunity for us to take it one step further. The dreaded word, even adult, to a lot of ways. We said a dreaded word because if we just said it, I think it would scare people, but it was obvious that we wanted to make this edgier, closer to an adult feeling, and which meant changing the rules. The original guys who did it set the steps for that, but the carry on was my friend, Frank Parr, who basically, he and I was sitting and saying, all right, when we talked to Todd, and we're hearing what Todd wanted to do, we kind of educated each other. Todd would tell us what he wanted, and we sat down and figured this is the best way to go. And he said the thing he liked working with us was that people were telling him how to do it, but they weren't explaining to him how he could do it. They weren't listening to him. They weren't bringing him into the game. We brought him in the game. I sat down and gave him a list of movies of stuff that we wanted to do. They said, now all these movies I'm gonna tell you have nothing to do with superhero shit. This will be visual, crazy, dark, noir stuff, from anime to live action. And that's when he went, that's what I want to do. So it was an education. So we just changing the rules. That's why it's great to look at Spawn now and go, nobody's done that yet.
And no one's done it since.
Haven't done it since. You know, I had a moment to work on the Hellboy movie, Hellboy show, and 5 minutes into it, I knew that this ain't for me. I know where you're doing. I know where you're going. You're not going to make that step that we did in Spawn. Now, most people don't know this, but we got that close to doing a Spawn movie. And in other words, it was done, storyboarded, acted it out, script, the whole thing with Todd.
Wow.
Unfortunately, he got into a thing with the studio and they went into litigation for 20 years. He got it back, but it was like it stopped any chance for it actually being done. He can do it, but I feel like it's a different story. It's a different style. It's too bad. I really wanted to maintain the 2D look of it. They were trying to introduce CGI stuff in it that really wasn't. And I kept pulling it back to where we got it. But I also changed the rules because, like I said, in talking and working with Todd, I helped him evolve into, all right, this is why the live action Spawn didn't work. I honestly told him that because he couldn't decide what it was going to be. Couldn't decide if it's superhero, couldn't decide if it's horror, couldn't decide if it's something else. None of that came together. And then the CGI got in the way. It wasn't telling the story. It wasn't declaring itself. We did that in the animated series.
How long did it take to produce Spawn before it actually was released?
Oh, you gotta realize that was tough. What I love about Spawn was that we changed the rules on how to do a show. Most shows are 26 episodes. Before my time, it was 12 episodes. But then the standard became 26 episodes, and you cram that all in and you get it done. It takes you a year or whatever. Spawn, because of how special it was, and again, going into it, we actually went into it actually like we were live action, and how to produce it to keep it quality. So instead of 26 shows, we only got like, what, 12?
Right.
I think. And which meant we came in, and actually when Frank started, we were finishing up the first season. So we shifted the look slightly to kind of evolve it by the second season to what everybody knows is Spawn. That was not easy, because that meant the time we put into one episode is the equivalent of what I would normally put into 4 episodes.
Oh, wow.
That's the way to tell you. Because an episode in particular, I had to do a lot of work to get it to evolve it from, where it was left off by the first team, and then pick it up and evolve it to where Frank and I were talking to Todd about it. And then, of course, the writing was changed differently. And so could not judge it the same way we do a show. Let's put it this way. For that 6 episodes, it took us a year. But it was worth it.
Wow. Okay.
Dang. Okay. You co-created Vibe and Vixen along with legendary writer Jerry Conway. Would I be correct in saying that he's probably the writer you've worked with most?
On the DC side.
On the DC side, yes and no. Honestly, it's funny how that works. The person who I feel like I worked with the most with was, well, he's certainly grown with, was Marv Wolfman.
Oh, really? Old Man Marv, that's what I call him. Old Man Marv.
Old Man Marv was, to this day, I love that man. Him and George, because again, they were the first people. Marv, when I quit on Justice League and felt really like I had failed, it was Marv there saying, no, you didn't fail. You were just not given the opportunity. And then he gave me Titans to do.
Oh, wow.
That kept my spirit in comics going for a while. And again, we only did 4 episodes. Well, actually, I did 5 for him, and the 3 of the Cyborgs, and then 2 others. And that was part of, if I would say the big letdown for me in comics was that I didn't gel with a regular writer where we had a series together. I want a situation. I wanted to work with Amar Wolfman and Dee Parker. That's why I went into it with Jerry. And I like Jerry a lot. I mean, I really appreciate it. But I think we're in both, certainly with him coming at the end of what I think he was kind of tired of doing comics. And he certainly evolved from that into television. So that was pretty much true. We didn't know at the time. But and here I was coming in at the beginning. And I thought we were going to work like this. And it became very obvious we're doing this. When he thought he could just give it to me and I would just draw where it was there. So when any contribution I thought I was going to have got minimized. And being I was the newcomer, I gave him enough respect. He goes, I can't fight this. What do I know? He was one of my favorite writers when I was growing up. I loved all his Spider-Man. I used to bend his ear on the Spider-Clone shit. Loved it. But I just realized that again, the gel wasn't there. And then Marv would put me on Vigilante. And even with Kupperberg, I did several books with him. Not several, but I did 4 or 5. And Paul was gracious to take notes I would give when I saw some stuff in the script I didn't get. But again, I didn't have that back and forth that I really wanted. So I really have a long history with a lot of writers. But I got to mention one person also who also was important to me, who also, you guys probably don't even know this. Coming up out of college, deciding to go into comics when I should have got a real job, I got lucky to be introduced, or at least told to meet Keith Pollard.
Yeah.
The guy who told me, I think it was through Fan Press or something, and I chased him down, tracked him down, called him out of the blue. He invited me to his house and basically told me what I needed to do to get in the comics. And this is before Dick brought me in. This was 2 years prior to me getting into DC Comics, into the DC program. But I owe all that to Keith Pollard. And the fact that I was a fan of his work, I knew he was black. I didn't know, I knew he worked he lived in Detroit, but it was a suburb outside Detroit, so it was about an hour for me to get there to him. Well, about 45 minutes, hour by bus. But the fact that he went out of his way to bring me in, and he didn't know me for shit, I'll always eternally thank him for that.
What aspect of your career, in its totality, are you most proud of?
The directing. Because that to me, when I left comics, was like it was like a heartbreak. It was like a divorce. And then I got in animation, and I literally got in animation to disappear. And all of a sudden, opportunities opened up, like warp gates. I'd be sitting in a room, and it's like, Patton, you do this. Patton, you do that. And all of a sudden, well, now you're the art director. What do you mean I'm the art director? What does that mean? And I have to work with somebody. How I got to be a director, I owe it to and he's passed on, but my editor. I had a film editor I worked with on these shows, and he taught me how to be a director by letting me make decisions, telling me when I was wrong, showing me what was right, and backing me up throughout the 3 shows that I was involved in. And I owe that man a lot. In fact, he had, I gave him my pages from comics. And he was like, dude, this is gonna be worth something. I'm like, I don't care, So he got me to be a filmmaker. I had studied, but it wasn't like film was my thing. But I watched more movies than most guys have, and I watched movies as a fan, and I watched movies as a professional. And encouraged and got to meet people who work behind the scenes, and I owe everything to him. Just like hearing about your dad. It's like, it's important, man. The guys behind the scenes, these are the people who make movies. This is how you make a show. So I'm proud of that. I love comics. I still love comics. I don't know if I could I would be honest and say I couldn't do the comics they do now. The amount of work, the payoff isn't as strong.
Yeah, I was about to ask you, what would you change about if it was up to you, if you had a magic wand, like what about the comics industry would Chuck Patton change?
I would say treat it the same way you do television. What you do, you get paid for. What you bring to the table, you get compensated for. Now, in some ways, we are doing that. I'm getting residuals, that's good. You get better residuals when you work in television. And even that is not perfect. But hey, if it wasn't for that, they wouldn't have anything to go for. So residuals, I think being independent is really important. Now I see a lot of much more stronger, fun, independent books that are exciting to me than the books being done. I don't read X-Men. I don't care what happens in X-Men. I'll be frank. I mean, I only pay attention to Batman because I don't know why. There's something about Damian that cracks me up. I just love it. This hell, the whole dynamic shakes up the whole Batman family. I love it. But it's still just a company store. It's still just a company thing. And a lot of those books are just doing the same shit over and over again. When they get stale and goes, well, kill somebody. Let's make him a woman. Now, I have no problem with that. What I do have a problem is when you let the gimmick become so important you forget to tell the story. But comics did like anything, it follows the money. So we've got a proliferation of superhero books. However, Dick goes back, DC listens, Vertigo is created. All of a sudden, Vertigo is bringing out those variety of books that we've talked about we don't see anymore. That was a hell of a beautiful renaissance to happen. My regret was not being a part of that. I would have loved to have done a different type of book. I love superheroes, but I would have loved to have been challenged. Television, I got to do that. So that's why television, being a director, has been more fulfilling.
Do you collect comics?
Not really. I read what I like, I keep what I like, I get rid of the rest.
So of what you do keep, what are some of your bangers? What's some of the best in your collection?
That's the thing. I mean, I would tell you and you go, what? You know, it's like, I like the indies. I mean, there's one book in particular I was reading. Let's see. I just picked this up the other day because I love the idea of it. It took me a while to get there.
Yeah.
Love this book.
That's Chris's like number one.
That was my number one of 2019.
Oh, okay. Kyle Baker just has this coming out. I got this. This is the second issue of that.
That's
Decathlon. Okay.
This is insane. Where's Kyle Baker? So you should expect this. I like the off the beaten trail doing that variety thing. You know, also, I mean, I read a lot of foreign stuff. This is the stuff that excites me. This is text. Somewhere in here, I got the latest Black Sad. If you know what that is, I say get that. I like that. That's the comics, again, that makes me excited about comics. And also, when I see it bound like a book, I get excited.
All right, last question, Chuck. Is there anything that you're working on that you can share that you would like the Stash fam to know about?
I gotta be honest, I can't say anything.
All right, let me rephrase the question. Let me rephrase it so we can get an answer out of you. Okay. Is there anything that you have worked on that you want the Stash fam to know about? See?
I'll take the safe route. This year, next week, officially, was the 20th anniversary of my 2003 Turtles show.
Boom!
Because I was the supervisor director on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And that was an odyssey in getting that done. And the first 2 seasons were mine, and then I left after that. I'm still proud of the first season. That's still a crown, that's a jewel in my crown. And it's like, I'm so proud that show really opened doors. Because that was me going back off Spawn and then trying something, again, different. And allowed to be different. We weren't doing that cowabunga friggin' turtles. We did edgier. We did Sonny Chiba nasty ninja shit. And it set the precedent for all the turtle shows and movies after that. So I'm very proud. So this is the 20th anniversary of that. I've gotten older. If I was asked tomorrow to do a new turtle show, if I had the same elements of the people I had, I would love to do it, but I doubt it. It's what it is. And you know what? Once you do it, you've done it. Now, with Spawn's a different story. If I was asked to do another Spawn, I'm ready. But that's not going to happen. At times, I don't have. It's not, even if he decides to do the movie, I won't be involved. I know Todd wants to be his own man. He is his own man. He wants to direct it his way. Go with God. But I still feel power about that. I still love that.
We want another Spawn. That's
yes, please.
Talking about it, he talks about it, and it's up to him to do it. And however he wants to do it, good for him. I hope it happens. It's a great character. That was the thing I like to think we did in the show, was that we really showed him how powerful. He knew it, but it was like we showed him you can do this.
You heard it from Chuck, Stash fam. Rewatch. This is the 20th anniversary of the Ninja Turtles.
And again, I'm going to be nasty and say, just watch the first 2 seasons. But
binge watch tonight, everybody.
Thank you so much for joining us, man. This was awesome.
Thank you for having me.
Such insightful, man. I'm loving just the realness, the honesty. Well, that's all for our show. If you like what you see, please subscribe and hit that like button. We are the Stash Bros. I'm Mike, speaking for Chris and Chuck Patton. We are out. Peace.